Hello, good afternoon, good evening. Good morning, wherever you're watching from. I know that they're all over the place. There are different time zones, right? So maybe we are having here almost 3 p.m. in ET in Miramar, Florida. And I'm sure where my guest is from, she will tell you what time it is now, right? Because even in the United States, there are different time zones. I know it, right? So, and so I agree to you like that. But I'll be talking to a very special person this morning, evening, this tonight, this afternoon, as I said, and she's gonna be telling you about the experiences that she has been having as it relates to her disability, and not only that, she's gonna be talking about her work as an artist and other things about her. She's a fascinating person despite her disability, and it goes to reason that no matter what your adversities are, no matter what your disability, be it physical, emotional disability, any type of disability, you can survive, you can be successful, you can endure whatever you are going through. And this is what we do, I do, and Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I'm Dr. Canute White, and I'm going to be talking to Katherine. Let Katherine in. Katherine, how are you
Hi,
doing?
I'm good. How are you?
I'm good. Thanks for coming. But guess what happened? I'm going to be starting out by asking, who is Katherine? Let's deal with that first. Who are
Sure.
you, professionally and otherwise?
Sure. So my name is Katherine Klimitas. I live outside of New Orleans, Louisiana. I am a graphic designer and a watercolor artist. I was born with a genetic disease called Osteogenesis Imperfecta, which is better known as Brittle Bone Disease. And
Yeah.
basically, it means that my bones break easily and they grow abnormally. So by the time I was 10, I had broken over 500 bones. So
Mm.
it's a lot. And I am like 2'7" tall. And I use an electric wheelchair for mobility. I usually have an aide with me almost all the time. And I got into art at a really young age, and
Good.
I um, had wonderful parents who, uh, pushed me to
Yeah.
really hone my art skills. And yeah,
Yeah.
so I became an artist.
We're going to be talking about your artistic voice, but I'm happy to talk about wonderful parents who pushed you and so on, because I'm going to be asking you now a little about your childhood. At 10, as you talk about being 10, before that and a little after that, talk to me about that.
Sure. So I grew up with two parents who were veterinarians, um, and so and also my grandfather is an MD. He's a
Okay.
doctor also,
Mm.
and so I grew up around medicine, which is
Oh,
great when you break a lot of bones.
yeah.
It's very convenient to have some doctors around, and so my parents they own their own businesses, they own
Mhm.
their own practices, and so I also grew up around that, around running
Cool.
a small business. And so they like for them going to college was never not an option.
Okay.
Like
Yeah.
I
Yeah.
was
Yeah.
always going to college. I was always going to be doing well in
Mm.
school, and I was always going to be doing everything I could to become a citizen in the community. Somebody who could
Yeah.
contribute to the community in one way or another. And so my mom gave me my first watercolor set when I was 5, and I took to it right away and ended up in a bunch of different art classes in school. And then outside of school, also,
Mm.
I had private teachers. I went to a bunch of summer camps and realized that I really, really enjoyed art and that I was good at it. And so at some point, I would go to the office with my parents on the
Yeah.
weekends, and I would start painting the animals that would come through while they were waiting on my parents.
Okay.
And I know, well, at some point, the clients started paying me to do it, when I
Mm.
was 11, 12, 13. And so as a teenager, I was already making money doing that.
Wow.
Right. Well, if I wasn't hooked before, I mean, I was
Yeah.
hooked at that point, right? And so at that point, my mom got me uh, private lessons with a college professor,
Yeah.
and I started
Mhm.
learning on a college level at 13. So at that point, that's kind of when I transitioned from hobby into
Yeah.
career, you know, and
Oh,
yeah,
I
yeah,
love that though. I mean, it's so fascinating. Your childhood, despite the challenges, was you were growing into a profession as well, right? And that's
yeah,
amazing.
yeah, yeah. And, I went to a mainstream school with people, with kids that did not have physical disabilities. And so when I couldn't go out and do the things they were doing, like playing
Okay.
soccer and
Cool.
sports and all kinds of stuff, I could do art instead. And that,
Yeah.
that worked for me.
Oh, I love that. I love that. Explain the disorder that you have, the challenges that you have, brittle bone disease. Explain that to
Yeah.
us.
So osteogenesis imperfecta, as I said, it's a problem with collagen, which is the material that makes up your bones and your skin, and like the linings of your organs. And it it's basically that I can't absorb calcium. I mean, it's more
Okay.
complicated than that, but that's the
Yeah.
that's the simple version. Um,
Yeah.
and so my bones are really soft. So like your bones on an X-ray look
Yeah.
white, right? Well, my bones look gray because they're not as solid as
Mm.
yours, and so they break easily. Like I can sneeze and break a rib. I do it relatively often, um, and they don't grow. So as I said, I'm only 2'7". People ask me a lot if it hurts. Yes, it definitely 100% still hurts. But the
Oh,
plus side is that because I don't have as much bone as somebody else,
yeah.
there's not as much there to heal, and so
Okay.
I heal really quickly. So if I break a rib, I can heal a rib in like a week. It's a much quicker process.
Yeah.
So yeah, and there are some other things that go along with it. Like a lot of people with this disease have some heart issues, and there's hearing loss and um,
Oh.
stomach issues. Sometimes it just depends on the person.
Oh, it depends on the person.
Yeah,
Okay. Hmm. Okay. But I'm happy that you're going through this, but you're going through it with a sense of um coping. Yeah.
yeah.
Let's use that word, and I'm happy that you're doing that. And your skills, the skills that you have, be it natural or learned, it will help you to talk to someone else. You're a motivational speaker. Perhaps I should talk to you about that. And who do you talk with?
Well, lately I've been on a few different podcasts. I have spoken to a few local women's groups, some Rotary clubs, things like that. I like to go speak to students, especially med students, because they don't get to see someone like me very
Oh,
often, and
yeah,
I think that's a really valuable resource for them,
yeah.
especially going into the medical field. And I say med students, but I mean any type
Else,
of
yeah.
medical
Mhm.
professional, going into the medical field. I also like to speak with educators because I
Okay.
am a very big proponent of school inclusion and including kids with disabilities in regular mainstream schools. So, and I realize, you can't always include everyone and everything. Like
Yeah,
I could never do PE,
yeah,
obviously, but I was included in all of my other classes.
yeah,
So, and there's probably some kids that can't necessarily be included in other classes, but they could be included in PE.
yeah,
And I think the more you mix that, the better off the kids with the disability is, but also the other kids are better off
yeah,
because they learn how to be around someone that's different.
yeah,
You
yeah.
know, Well,
True. Yeah, you're right.
yeah,
Yeah,
and that serves them well going into adulthood.
yeah.
So yeah, that
I,
those
I,
are kind of my three groups.
I like that. And you talk much about inclusion. And my thing, are you doing research or planning on doing research that could facilitate inclusion of persons with disability into the school system?
I wouldn't call it research. I mean,
Okay,
I go and just speak to different groups and
right.
give my experience, because
Yeah.
I did have a really good inclusive experience.
Yeah.
Um, and that's partly because I had really good parents that insisted on it. Um, so that helped a lot. But I think when schools hear, educators, people in charge
Yeah.
hear that it is possible, they're more likely to try.
Yeah.
And so I think hearing about a positive experience,
Yeah.
because honestly, like, in the
Yeah.
news in general, everything is negative. You
Yeah.
know, so they don't get to hear a lot of positive experiences very often. So when
Yeah.
they get to hear one, that makes them want to make the effort to try.
Cool. I love that. I love that. And you are now an adult, and growing up with this challenge and experiencing the quality of inclusion that you had experienced, it tells me that somehow this whole experience have shaped your adulthood. I'd like to find out how did growing up with this disability has actually shaped your adulthood.
Well, I mean, it affects everything I do. As I said, I have to have an aide with me all the time. I need help uh, doing all of my daily activities, like going to the bathroom and getting
Yeah.
food and things
Yeah.
like that. So it's definitely shaped the way my adult life has happened,
Yeah.
because I have to learn how to work and rely on other people,
Hmm.
um, and trust other people for the things I really need, not just running my business, but also living, literally.
Yeah.
um, so yeah, so that has definitely shaped my adulthood. And then I people have those cliche sayings like the sky's the limit and you can do anything you set your mind to, which is true to an extent. But like, if I set my mind to stocking shelves at Walmart,
Yeah.
I would still not be able to do that.
Right.
Like,
Okay. Mhm.
I am limited in what
Yeah.
I can do, and that's okay. Everybody has
Of
limitations,
course. Yes. Trust me. Yeah.
physical or mental or whatever. Um, but I had to find something that would I could make support me financially.
Yeah.
That I could contribute to society, and that I could actually be a for not it's not a great term, but a useful member. In
Exactly. Right. That's important when you said that everybody has a disability limitation, so to
right,
speak. Because yeah, as much as I am here as being appeared capable and able, I still have my limitations.
right,
Right? I still have my limitations. So you're right. We all have some sort of limitations.
right. I'm not somebody who says you need to hire me just because I'm in a wheelchair and it
Yeah.
makes your company diverse. I don't think that's true at all. I
Yeah.
think you should hire somebody because they're the right person for the job.
Okay. Right.
And if they happen to be in a wheelchair, then you need to find a way to make that work.
Yeah. Yeah. I
You
agree.
know,
Yeah.
yeah,
Yeah. I mean, I love that. You're in business. Let's talk a bit about that because I love to hear about you as a businesswoman.
sure. So I own my own art and design business that I run out of my home, called KAK Art and Designs, which are my initials. And yeah, there I am, my paint.
Yeah,
I
that's you. That's you. That's you. You looking
Yes,
well, Junior.
I
Yeah.
so I lay down to do a lot of my daily activities, like painting and drawing, because it's easier on my back and it's easier on my arm to
Yeah.
do that. The thing is, though, that life looks very different when you're laying down than when you're sitting up. And
Yeah.
so I had to learn how to compensate for my angle,
Okay.
because for a long time everything I drew came out crooked. It just looked off.
Yeah.
And so, I had a professor that taught me how to fix that problem.
Okay. Cool.
So that was very helpful. But yeah, I paint. I do graphic design, so like commercial like logos and websites and uh, design for other businesses, things like
Wow.
that. And then I also have some jewelry designing that I do on the side. Um, but that's not my main thing. My main
Okay.
thing is watercolor art, and I do a lot of pet portraits.
Wow.
So those pet portraits I started doing in my parents' office, they've uh, they've continued and
Yeah.
gotten much better over the last 20 years.
Cool.
But yeah, but I do a lot of pet portraits and I do a lot of animal painting and things like that.
Oh,
Yeah.
yeah. This is Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I am actually talking to a very, very talented person who has had, she's living with disability, but it still shows that you can be successful no matter the limitations that you have in life. And we continue to talk to her here. I continue to talk to her here. And Canute Exploration, your topic in the podcast. I am Dr. Canute White. Tell me, you talk about animals.
Animals. Well,
Yeah,
that's
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 your dog?
that's my newest dog. That's Raya. She's very cute. She's very bad. Uh,
Okay, cool.
yes, she we as I mentioned, I grew up with two parents who were veterinarians. So I mean, I grew up with animals. Like
Mm,
I've never not had an animal in my life. Um, when I was born, we had four cats, and then it just expanded from there. And I grew up learning how to respect animals,
yeah,
like all animals, except maybe cockroaches and other bugs. Um, but most animals, uh,
yeah,
I grew up learning like, if you respect animals in general, they respect you.
right. Yeah,
And so, and we had all kinds of pets. I mean, we had, of course, dogs and cats, but we also had hamsters and birds and snakes, and we had a tarantula. Um, I'm trying to think. We had geckos. Um, we had a hedgehog for a little while. I mean, like
cool.
we've had a lot of different animals,
Yeah.
and so I learned to appreciate them at a really young age, and
Mhm.
that is what I now portray in my art.
Yeah.
That's what I prefer to paint is animals.
Yeah. I mean, yeah, I realize you paint a lot of animals
Yep.
and basically that is why you prefer to do it. But
Yeah,
is it that animals you grew up with animals, yes, but is it that animals are more I don't want to say this, but they are more um you're more likely to paint them because of who they are than
right.
people. I mean, people are more difficult.
Well, I don't paint people well at all. It's just not my
Okay,
thing.
okay,
I just I don't know why. It's
yeah,
just not
that's all right. Yeah,
But I mean, I've done it.
yeah.
I haven't done it since school because I hate it. But yeah, I kind of just specialized because it was what I was good at, and it's what I like, you
Yeah,
know, which is probably why I'm good at it. But yeah, I like the
yeah.
idea of bringing an individual animal's personality out
Oh,
in a
oh,
painting
wow.
because I think um,
Mm,
that's kind of fun to portray. You know, when sometimes people don't think about animals having
yeah,
personalities. You know,
yeah,
yeah,
yeah. Catherine, I'm happy you said that. I'm in psychology, and I know that psychology is a study of animals and humans. We usually
yeah.
leave the behavior of animals and humans, and we
My
usually leave
dogs,
animals out of it.
my dogs are certainly humans. Well, they think
Yeah,
they try to be humans for
yeah,
sure.
yeah. So they have personalities, definitely.
Absolutely.
And
Yep.
as you talk, I imagine a dog who would lift his paws or whatever, and
Yeah.
try to, and that's a dog with a sort of a friendly personality. Not all dogs would do that, right? So
Right.
personalities are different.
Right. Exactly.
Yeah,
Exactly.
yeah, and that is amazing. Tell me your experiences with the medical profession in terms of your challenges. I'd like to hear more about that. You must have visited a lot of doctors and communicate with a lot of persons from the medical field. What your experiences are like?
I actually don't go to a lot of doctors, which
Yeah,
surprises most people. As I said, my parents were veterinarians. My
Oh
mom's
yeah.
still practicing,
Yeah.
and my grandfather is a doctor. And so, I had access to medical with
Okay.
my family a lot. Now I did have an orthopedist. I've had to have a few surgeries, and obviously I
Right.
need a specialty doctor for that. But the problem is that my disease is not very common, and
Okay.
so a lot of doctors have heard of it, but
Yeah.
they've never seen it, and they've
Okay.
certainly never treated
Mm.
it, and
Yeah.
so they don't really know how, unless they've specialized in bone medicine, in
Yeah.
orthopedics or whatever. Um, they don't. This is just a paragraph in a book that
Yeah.
they read in med school, you
Yeah.
know. And so the problem is that, and even if they have specialized, like for example, if you break your arm, you
Yeah.
would go to the hospital and
Yeah.
it would get X-rayed, and then they would determine that it's broken, and then they would put a cast on it.
Yeah.
Well, the problem is that, first of all, breaks don't always show up on X-rays for me because
Oh.
my bones are so thin. So
Yeah. Yeah.
I know it's there, but they may not see it. So
Okay.
that's first problem.
Mm.
Second problem is that if they were to put a heavy cast on,
Yeah.
let's say, my lower arm, if it's too heavy, it's going to break my shoulder.
Oh.
And so, which I've had happen. So doctors don't think like that because
Yeah.
that's not what they normally see. Now for me, if I break my arm, sometimes the best thing to do is to wrap it to my body and just
Okay.
have my body stabilize it.
Hmm, hmm,
You
hmm.
know, and that's something that my parents and I have learned over the years just from experience. Um, we found that the less wrapping we can put on me, the better off I'm going to be. Usually,
Wow.
usually
Yeah.
the case. Not always, but that's usually the case.
Yeah.
Um, and so that's out of the box. Like that's completely opposite of what doctors are taught in med school.
Yeah.
Um, Another thing is when I break a bone, I get really bad muscle spasms,
Oh.
and that's what hurts more than the actual break in
Mhm.
the bone. So a lot of times I put hot packs on my
Okay.
on wherever I'm hurting instead
Mhm.
of ice because that's what makes me feel better. But
Mhm.
again, that's not what you're taught. You're taught to
Yeah.
put ice on the bone. Yeah.
Yeah.
And so it's just really different. So yeah, I go to the hospital if I feel like it's really bad or I really need an X-ray. But most of the time, I mean, I know it's broken and how bad.
Yeah. So
I'm doing
you
this
you
for
know.
33 years.
Mhm,
But
mhm.
you
Yeah.
know, I can tell. So yeah, we don't do. And the other thing is, my mother is a homeopathic veterinarian, and so
Okay.
we do a lot of natural medicine,
Yeah.
less narcotics, more natural
Yeah.
medicine,
Mhm,
and
mhm.
that has been really good because then I don't get the side effects from the narcotics.
Right.
You know, and
Yeah.
that's what works for me. Like that doesn't work for everybody, but
Yeah.
that's what works for me.
Yeah.
You
Yeah.
know,
That's cool. You know
yeah.
what I'd like to ask you though, as it relates to going into the public and how strangers actually react to you in public.
Yeah, yeah, I have some good stories about that. Um, yeah, strangers don't usually know what to do with me
Yeah.
at
Yeah.
first. And this is again going back to school inclusion. Like
Yeah.
if we
Yeah.
include disabled people in schools at an
Mhm.
early age, this
Yeah.
problem would be mostly solved. Um, I mean, of course, kids stare and they
Yeah.
ask
Right.
questions and
Yeah.
whatever, and that's fine because
Yeah.
they're kids. That's
Yeah.
that's what kids do. They're curious.
Yeah.
But adults should know better.
Yeah. Yeah.
You know, most of the time people think I am either a child
Okay.
or they think that I'm mentally disabled,
Mhm.
and neither of which is true.
Right. Yeah.
So, and they just automatically assume it, which is
Mhm.
a problem
Yeah.
because, like I said, neither of which is true.
Yeah.
And yeah, so that's frustrating. I mean, it um, it would be nice if people would just ask.
Yeah.
because I'm happy to
Yeah.
answer any questions.
Yeah.
And I think most people like me are happy to answer any questions because they don't want people
Yeah.
assuming the wrong thing. You
Yeah.
know, but yeah, I mean, I've had some pretty like the weirdest one, and this happened to me again last weekend.
Mm-hmm.
For some reason, people like to pet my head, and I don't understand it. Like they
Yeah.
just pet me on the top of the head, and I'm
Yeah.
like, stop touching me. I
Yeah.
don't, you know, it's
Yeah.
very weird. But yeah, I get all kinds of comments and
Yeah.
whatever, but it's okay.
And
Sometimes, huh?
go ahead, Catherine.
I said sometimes I write them down and then laugh at them later. You
Yeah.
know,
Yeah. You know, I am thinking about education. How can we, well, I'm playing my part here in Can Youth Exploration, just talking to you and hopefully persons like you. But how do you think people can become more educated about this? They're not going to try to find the material, you know. Do you think we can now give them the material?
yeah. I mean, listening to podcasts like this.
Yeah.
I mean, this is why I come on these.
Yeah.
This is to educate people.
Yeah.
Um, I think if they would just ask,
Yeah.
like if I'm in a mall and you want to ask, if you're curious about what I have, just ask me.
Yeah.
Just ask me a question. I don't mind. I don't bite. You know,
Yeah.
like, and that's remember that people who may look a little different are still just people. You
Yeah.
know, and in most, I mean, and of course there's exceptions to this, but
Yeah.
in most cases, they're happy to just talk to you.
Right.
You
You
know,
know, before we wrap up though, I just want you to, let's look at this scenario. You and I, we're in public, and I see you and I say, "Hey, how are you doing? What's wrong with you? What's going on?" Tell me what you'll say to me.
what I would say to you is I'm doing well, hopefully. Thank you. And I have a condition called osteogenesis imperfecta, and it means I break bones a lot. And I was just born this way. I mean, it's usually something as simple as that. And some
Yeah.
people will say, "Oh, okay," and then they'll go on their merry way. And then some people will say, "Oh, can you tell me some more?" Or they'll
Right.
have other questions, and that's fine too.
Yeah.
I mean, unless I'm like in a rush,
Yeah.
trying to get somewhere, I don't mind answering
Yeah.
questions.
I think that's ideal though to ask. And I'm saying here in Can Youth Exploration, even with the challenge that Catherine is having, or any other disability anybody has, ask, don't assume, because you might
Right.
not be aware of what's going on or educated enough about what you're seeing. So ask instead of making assumptions.
The other thing I would say too, real quick before we get off,
Yeah.
is ask the person with the disability, not the person with them.
Yeah.
Because
I love that.
so many times people ask my aides what's wrong
Yeah.
with me, or
Yeah.
how old am I,
Yeah.
or some other question.
Yeah.
And that's very frustrating
Yeah.
because I'm right there and I can
Yeah.
answer. And most of the time, my aides go, "I don't know, ask her,"
Yeah.
and then I end up answering it. But yeah, you always ask the person that you're asking about.
Wow. Yeah. But I'm really so happy to talk to you. I need your contacts though. What are your contacts if people want to
Oh,
contact you or read more about what you're doing?
yes. So I am on Facebook and Instagram, and you can follow me there. And then my website is KAK Art NOLA, which is New Orleans, Louisiana.com. And you can I have an Etsy store. You can get to that from my website. And all my social media is on there as well. So yeah.
Yeah. And the links, the website and the Instagram link will be on our description, the
Great.
description of this episode, so that people can find out more about you, what you're doing, and the disorder. Right?
Perfect. Yep.
Hey, it's nice to have you, Catherine. Nice to be talking with you,
Thank you.
and keep doing what you're doing. I'm encouraged by what you're doing as well.
Oh, well, good. I'm glad to hear that.
All right.
Good.
And thank you for coming on Can Youth Exploration, your
Okay.
topic in the podcast. So that was Katherine. You heard her. She has been a shining light. Her website is running across the screen here. If you're watching on our channel, YouTube channel, that's www.kakartnola.com, and see what she's doing. Find some way to talk to her, find out about the challenges, the disorder, sorry, the disability, that she's living with. And she's a very successful person. She's a shining star. You heard her. You who are watching and you are listening on your favorite podcast platform. You heard her. Continue to listen to Canute Exploration, your topic in a podcast. I will talk to you. I will see you next time. Goodbye.